Welcome, welcome, one and all. It is I, ASD43, yet again on Dark Souls 3. As you know, I did have a series on this game already, but I had to cancel that one. Regrettably, I really wanted to do it. But don't worry, the character I actually ended up completing the game with it. It was a pretty good build. But basically, the reason I had to cancel it was because my laptop started running into problems where I couldn't actually run the game and record at all. And even if I lowered the settings down to minimum settings, whatever have you, I just couldn't do it. Well, that's been remedied. I figured out that the problem it didn't have anything to do with like graphics or anything like that. It actually had to do with the fact that I didn't really have a good system for cooling down my laptop. So I recently bought a laptop cooling pad, like maybe half a year after that series ended. And as you can see, we're on the Cinders version of Dark Souls 3 right now. I've lately been getting like deeply into Cinders. I don't really enjoy the base game of Dark Souls 3 as much anymore, but I definitely enjoy Cinders a lot. So what I want to do is basically, I want to make this first episode basically episode 0, where I'm going to go about showing you the classes, basically all the customization options that we have for my class. I'll be creating the characters, like looks and everything myself. But I want you guys to choose my class for me. And I don't really think there's going to be too many people who'll be invested in like actually voting for what class I choose, but even if it's just like 2 people who vote and they both vote 2 different classes or something like that, then I can at least have a base for what people want to see from me. So yeah, I'll go ahead and hit new game and cut to when we get to choose. Alright, so obviously age classes are here in Burial Gift. So class, we have the first class, which is Deprived. This is basically supposed to be like a challenge class that starts off at level 1 and it has 10 every single stat. This is not a bad starting point at all. It's also not a good starting point because you don't, as you can tell, you only have a loincloth, which basically means that you will not be taking hits very well. Most enemies in the game at this point already can do like half their health and damage, just because of how low all your stats are in consideration to how little armor you have. The next one is Knight. This is, in the base game, the best defensive class. I haven't even tried to play it in this one because there's other classes that can do what it does better. But this one's, from what I can already tell, it's pretty good. I think that's a longsword I see in its hand, so if you're going for some good old Dark Souls 3 longsword cheese, I mean, it's right there for you. And that's a different shield. It's not the same one that you get. The Lothric Knight shield, I believe, used to be in the original game, so I don't know what that shield is. The Thief, I believe this is the exact same class as in DS3, although I could be wrong. I don't remember him having a bow, but you know, maybe he did. Obviously he has a lot of dexterity, so he'd be a dexterity build, and luck, which in Cinders, luck is actually a scalable thing. Like, it has a purpose beyond just item discovery. So yeah. Sentinel. This one starts off with good old Zweihander, and that looks to be a kite shield. He also starts off with the Forgotten Knight set, I believe it was called. Forsaken Knight? I think it was Forgotten. That's the highest vitality I've seen so far. Strange, but alright. He has better strength than the knight, so he's a strength boy. And he has between Thief and Knight in terms of endurance, so decent stamina. This seemed like a pretty solid choice. Yeah, I would definitely like it. Let's see, Mercenary. Alright. Also, another thing to keep in mind is the level of the class. The lower the level, the easier the cost is, and thus the more choice that we really get earlier on in the game. So because of this boy being level 16, you get less choice as to how you'll actually go about manipulating him, which is one of the reasons why Deprived is so powerful. Deprived, while it doesn't start off with a whole lot, it's also the lowest level. It's level 1. So with those 10s in every single stat, you basically get to choose whatever you want. Mercenary. So this guy starts off with Sellsword Twin Blades, and that seems to be I think it's a target shield is what it's called. So I believe that's good for parrying. And the Sellsword Twin Blades in base Dark Souls 3 are the best dexterity weapons in the game. Albeit in this game, sharpness, in this mod rather, sharpness doesn't work the same way. And another thing to keep note of is that all armor has different effects. I know that the loincloth for the Deprived, for instance, gives a +2 to dexterity. So I assume that this has either something to do with stamina or dexterity, as be it the Mercenaries' Sellsword Twin Blades are dexterous in nature. The Wayfarer, this seems to be a more dexterity-based greatsword build that has a leather shield, so good for parrying. And that sword, I believe, if I'm correct, isn't in base DS3. I could be wrong though. Maybe it's the Karthus Greatsword. It might be that. Kirk Greatsword, that is. So it might be that. This seems to be a good build. I mean, I don't personally believe that it's going to be better than the Sentinel in terms of total damage output, but it seems pretty well rounded. The Assassin, unlike the Thief, it doesn't have as high of luck, but it has increased intelligence. Oh yeah, and you can see right there that it has 2 spells already equipped. I believe that one is Fall Control on the left. I believe it reduces fall damage down to 0 or something like that, or maybe it just makes you more quiet. Maybe it's the second one. And then the next one I believe is like some sort of aura spell or something that distracts foes. He also has the Rapier, which is, at least in DS2, a really broken weapon. I don't know if in this game it's any good. I've never actually gone and used it for very long. So yeah, you do start off with the staff though for mages, so this is a great build if you want to be a mage, I guess, or sorcerer. Here's the samurai. I'm not sure what sword this is. I think it could be the washing pole, but it could also just be like Masamune or really any of the katanas. He also starts off with a unique shield. I have no idea what that one is. And it seems like, unlike this class, this one's a higher level and has stats to fit that. This also seems to be a dex-based class with a defensive posture, so a lot more defense-based. Warrior, this one seems to be strength, but unlike the Sentinel, it is more focused on stamina, because I have used the Northern set in this game before, and it is really good for stamina. So yeah. I'm not too impressed by this build. It doesn't have the best shield, and while the weapon is fine, I don't like the stats. I think it would have been better if they reduced intelligence even lower and probably put it into, maybe just putting it into like endurance or vitality. Put it into there. I believe he's probably going to be slow rolling. But that is another thing to keep track of. Not all classes are balanced around being playable in the early game, so keep that in mind. We have level 16 Boyo with a Bandit, which is wearing the firearm set, which I don't think I've ever used. but I have used the Great Axe. I'm actually currently using that on the character that I'm playing through the game on. And I only replaced it with the well, I don't remember what it's called, but it's a weapon that you get in the Undead Settlement, I believe. That is used. It looks a lot like what those guys, can't explain it. But basically, this is a really solid weapon. It has a really good weapon art, and it's honestly just really good in every way. And this guy has a unique shield, like unlike a few of the other classes, where it has a bash, and I believe this is the highest damage bash shield that you can get in the game. I think it's the Shield of Thorns. I could be wrong. As for stats, that seems to be a pretty solid stat setup. It's definitely more solid than the warrior, but that's kind of just natural given the fact that it's a higher level by 3. So yeah, Bandit's a pretty solid choice. Soldier, I think that's the Claymore. Level 12. Okay, so this is a really balanced strength and dex build. So if you want to go into a refined build, then this is the right choice for you, because that's a pretty solid setup. You have a crossbow and you have a claymore. The shield isn't the best, but it will work. And I believe the armor set that he has boosts item discovery, but I could be wrong. It might boost stamina or something. Acolyte. I have actually tried this out before, and it might look terrible at first glance, but it's actually pretty good. The weapon that he has is really busted. It does lightning damage, and not only that, but he also, as you can see, has 2 of the dragon parts, and I believe they're the upgraded ones. So you start off like really powerful. You have really good dexterity, and your faith is already 16, which isn't bad for the early game. And that's to help scale the damage of your weapon. Yeah, so this is a really solid choice, albeit the vitality is extremely low, which means that you will be heavy rolling if you put on things that are like too much heavier than what you already have. So Herald, this is a decent character from what I can already tell. Decent amount of faith, vitality is solid. Otherwise, its stats are pretty mediocre, and he has just the basic spear. I think honestly, if this was the winged spear, this might be a really good class. But with what I see, he just seems like he's going to be a bit tougher to really get going. Although he does have, I assume that's just basic force. It's kind of hard to tell without seeing it in a bigger picture. I think it's just basic force. If that is Wrath of the Gods though, then I don't know why we have it. So yeah, it must be force. Yeah. So yeah, it's a decent build. It's not the best though, but definitely something I could use. Captain. I'm not very particular about that weapon specific fuck words, whatever. Basically, I don't like this weapon a whole lot. Weapons that use like a similar setup to this tend to do better than it, but I believe it would be a solid choice for the early game, and it could easily be swapped out for the Lucerne once you get that, because the 17-14 split between dex and strength is really easy to lean into the Lucerne with. You have low intelligence and faith, but that's because of the vitality, strength, and dexterity, so that makes sense. This is a solid build overall. Peasant, you start off with the Great Scythe, I assume this is. Oh, the shield also is a kite shield. That, I believe, is... shield is that? I want to say that's the shield from the Pharaoh's Swamp, but I could be wrong. I don't fully know what that one is. It has a bash on it though. This seems to be a... it seems to be a build. I'm not particularly impressed at all, but it does have high luck actually. That's pretty good, because of the bleed effect. Luck scales with bleed, or bleed scales with luck rather. So I mean, if you're going for a bleed build, this is a great starting class. So yeah, that's a whip. I have never used a whip. I know in the base game of DS3 they're terrible, but in this version of the game, I assume they're good. I've seen Cuculus from the Demon Ruins. I've seen her use it, and it's much better in this version than it is in the base game. And you start off with the gold covered serpent ring, which can be extremely handy. So I assume this build is completely based around luck, and I assume because of that, this is going to be a pretty solid setup for going into a bleed build, or maybe even poison. Who knows? I don't know how poison scales in this. Brawler, I have started off with this before. It kind of works, albeit you're gonna end up probably leaning away from actually using the build the way it's supposed to be built, because, like, look at those stats. Those are just solid in every way, and the reason for it obviously is because you're supposed to be like capable of actually taking hits while dealing damage, but eventually just the fact that you have to be right up in front of the enemy is gonna be too much, and you're gonna need to pick a better weapon. So yeah. Hunter, it's a bow, and I think I don't know what that other one is. Is it a dagger? It might be a dagger. I can't really see it. That's a Crimson Parma as well, so okay. I would say Hunter, if you're going for a bow only run, it's the best choice. Otherwise, it's not necessarily all that impressive. It's just a bow with what I assume to be a dagger. So if you want it, go ahead. And I mean, if you want to make me do a challenge run, I'm up for it. Let's see, sorcerer. So 20 intelligence, which someone earlier had 20 intelligence. I think it was the thief. And this has a dagger. This has a target shield. This starts off with flash sword and Pharaon dart. So this is a great start for a sorcerer build, obviously. If you don't want to start off with the thief build, then this is your build, I guess. So yeah, pretty solid. Pyromancer. I believe this build is just straight up better than it was in DS3, the base game. So I mean, there you have it. Albeit recently they did kind of nerf pyromancy a bit. So pyromancy is the least damaging form of magic in the game. But I don't remember what the trade-off was, but I believe the trade-off made sense. If I remember correctly. So like they lowered the damage to the lowest damage out of the game, but it has some other like big bonus to it that makes it better in one specific way. So yeah, that's pretty solid. You have cleric. It's a cleric build. You have spell parry, you have the cleric's chime, and you have what I assume is just the basic mace. I can already tell that you have the, what is that called? The chrono disc. I can't remember for the life of me what it's called. But you also have heal aid at the start, so solid faith start. I assume the armor raises faith. So yeah, if you want me to go into a faith build, then this is a decent choice. Leaning into priest now. Now, I know I just said that cleric is a decent choice, but as a faith build goes, this is top tier already, as you can tell. Longsword, perfect weapon. This is a spell parry weapon, which is useless basically in the base game, but whatever. Cleric's chime, and then you have force, which is really good, and you have lightning arrow, which is one of the best, if not the best, miracle in the game. So perfect choice for a faith build. Heretic. Now this looks bad, but do not worry. In game, you do not see those limbs hanging off the side. Yeah, I know how awkward it looks. But yes, they recently actually changed how these spells work. They're no longer considered sorceries or anything like that. They are now considered hexes. So DS2 has come back to us. We have hexes again, and unlike before, there is actually a tutor specifically for these hexes that you can find in the tower behind the Firelink Shrine. So yeah, if when you want to go up and get the Firekeeper's Soul, which by the way, the doors to the tower are unlocked, you can go in at any time, you don't need a key for it. You can go up to the top of the tower, and if you turn around instead of just go immediately to the elevator to the Firekeeper's Soul, when you get to the top of the stairs, you will find the tutor sitting on the ground. So yeah, you can just learn hexes now. Honestly, this would be an amazing start, and I already have another character of this class, but if you guys want to see me run through the game with this, I'm totally happy with doing that. Outcast. This has another whip. I am not very impressed by whips. However, that is Dark Pyromancy. I don't believe those are considered hexes. I could be wrong, but I know for a fact that those are fire-based spells with a dark look to them. So yes, and that is the Dark Pyranti Flame. It uses, I believe it's LT if it's in your left hand, it's either similar to the Dark Hand or it's a burst of Dark Flame, similar to the basic Pyromancy Flame. And then obviously this scales with, I think it would scale higher with dark damage, something like that. And then obviously that's just a whip, so you know, yay. Skeptic. So that's a mace, I believe it's called. Maybe spiked mace? Maybe a spiked mace. I have no idea what that is. Oh, okay. Considering the fact that we're using hexes, this is the Corrupted Talisman, which is basically a rework of the Canvas Talisman to work better on hexes. So yeah, you can still cast miracles, by the way, with hexed catalysts, but they're just 50% less effective. So yeah, it looks to be alive again, and Gnaw, which is decent. I can definitely see this build working. I have no idea how it would work, but I can see it working. So this looks to be a decent build, probably, but maybe not, who knows. So this might look amazing at first, and I have my current character started off as a paladin, but goddamn is it frustrating, because for some reason they decided to give the sword holy, which, if anyone remembers blessed gems in the base game, is never usually the thing you want to do unless you are using like a Lothric Knight greatsword or something with that already has like electric on it. Because the issue with holy is that it reduces the damage of the weapon and replaces it instead with a passive heal, which you might think is good, except for the fact that in this game, passive healing is not that powerful, especially in the early game when you have very little health to actually heal. So yeah, you tend to end up doing a lot less damage. The sword doesn't do basically anything against holy enemies as is, and the second that you get your hands on a better weapon, you're dropping this weapon instantly because of how bad it is. It's even worse than the basic Cathedral Knight Greatsword, which is what this is, because of the fact that it has holy on it. So yeah, the Paladin class is extremely disappointing with its weapon, but the stats definitely are good. 20 vitality is solid, 18 strength is solid, 9 dex is a little bit but 16 faith is solid, and then vigor, attunement, and endurance are all average. So it's a decent build for stat wise, and that's about it. Jester. I have started a run with this character. I have not gotten very far, and I deleted the character after I was done with it because I honestly just wasn't really interested in continuing the run. I can't remember at all what this build does, but I do know for a fact that it's a build and he's a jester. So I know that much, and I think that's a basic pyromancy flame that he has. So yeah. And then the Accursed. This, unlike the Deprived, is a level 1 that starts off with nothing. Yes, not even his pants are considered armor. He has no stats, he's level 1, and he has no weapons. I don't know why you guys would want me to do this. I don't want to do this, because you basically just lost, like, what is that? 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90. You basically lost 90 levels worth of upgrades just to do an Accursed run. And I can't imagine that that's at all good. So yeah. I don't see why you would want me to play this, but I guess if you're sadistic enough, then that's a choice, and I will obey it. But yeah, so that is all the classes. In the description of the video, I will have a list of every single one of the classes by name, and I think I might even create an online poll for this, and have a link for it that I will check within like in maybe another week or even a month's time, to see what people want. And yeah, I hope you guys have enjoyed the video. I know it's not exactly the most interesting thing, but yeah. I will see you guys next time.